So you don't think you need a drum teacher? You don't think that you want to learn new things, improve your technique, ergonomics, and learn how to play new styles? Well, I disagree with that, and I'm going to give you 5 reasons why you need a drum teacher. Hello, and welcome to Tim Conley Drums. Today we are going to discuss 5 reasons why you, in fact, need a drum teacher. Now, there's always going to be people out there that say, oh, I never had a drum teacher and I functioned and I managed and so never had a drum teacher and this big star didn't have a drum teacher, and all that's true. Doesn't mean that it's correct, but it's all true. Now, my argument for here is my reason for why I think you need a drum teacher. I'm going to give you the 5, but first I'm just going to give you a little history about myself. I started taking drums. I started playing drums at the age of 7. I started taking lessons at the age of 10. From the time I was 10 up until literally right now, I have at some point or another always taken lessons. Now, when I was young, I would take a weekly lesson, which is what most people do. When I was in music school, I took a weekly lesson. After music school, when I started working, I wasn't taking a weekly lesson just because I was either on tour, busy, gigging, doing whatever musically, and there just wasn't the element of being able to get a weekly lesson. However, I still continued to take lessons, but they weren't always weekly. Sometimes they were bi-weekly, sometimes they were monthly. And in some cases, it was just haphazard. Every once in a while, I would contact somebody and get a lesson from them. So when I studied with Dom Famulero, it was kind of like that. I didn't do a weekly lesson with Dom. The lessons were scattered all over the place, depending on his availability, because he traveled the world, and my availability based on my schedule. So schedules factored in. But I can tell you that, in my opinion, taking lessons is imperative. Learning from other people is the best thing that you can do to improve your skills on this instrument. Now I'm going to start laying down my 5 reasons why. Number 1, correct technique and immediate feedback. So a teacher can clearly identify any kind of corrections in your technique and correct the poor technique to make it good technique. Now, you got to have a good teacher and you got to have somebody that knows about technique to understand this, but I very much believe that technique is super important and will lead to much better drum playing. I've had a lot of students that showed up that had been playing drums for years and years, and their technique was bad, and they were wondering why their arms are getting sore, why their back is sore, why they can't move around the drum kit the way that they see a lot of other drummers doing it. And usually it boils down to they've never had any instruction on proper technique. So I specialize in that. That's my number 1 thing that I focus on in my lessons, is developing technique to the point where grooves become easy, fills become easy, phrasing and musicality become easy. You make things smooth and relaxed, not only for yourself, but for your bandmates. And when you're in the studio, it makes things go a lot smoother as well. So technique eliminates bad habits. For those of you that have been taking lessons for many years, playing drums for many years without lessons, and you've developed all these bad habits, well, you start taking some lessons, you got to start at ground zero, strip the bad habits, and rebuild with good, positive habits. Now, the other thing is you get immediate and personalized advice for technique, because some guys will say, well, all I have to do is go on Drumeo or watch a YouTube video or whatever. It's just not the same. Watching a video is just not the same as being with a teacher who can adjust your hands, adjust your elbows, tell you to put your wrists down, tell you to relax, get you to straighten up, get you to sit properly, put your feet on the ground flat. Whatever that needs to be done to get you to change your technique, that's what an in-person lesson can do. Now, online, Still better than a video, not as good as in person. So I would say video is your poorest choice. Mind you, I've learned a lot from watching videos, but I've already developed all the skills and the technique that I can watch the video and take what I see in the video and turn it into still something good. But if you're a beginner drummer or an intermediate drummer, even an advanced drummer that's never had any actual real in-person instruction, those videos can sometimes make things not necessarily better for you because your technique is still going to be bad. You're looking at Ray Luzier going, how the hell does he fly around the drums like that? Well, Ray's got amazing technique and he's studied and he took a lot of lessons and he's a very highly trained musician. It's just like anything. You want to be a great chef? Yeah, you can learn at home how to cook and whatnot, but if you really want to be a great chef, you learn from a chef. You learn from a professional that's been doing it for years and years and years, and you're going to get better at being a chef if you take lessons from a chef. It only makes sense to me. Number 2, accelerated learning and structured progress. So, structure in your progress means that you can, again, prevent bad habits because we've got a structured way of learning. You also learn how to put structure into your practice. One of the number one things I get from so many of my teenager to adult students is they don't know what to practice. I mean, kids as well, but adults and teens usually look for a structured practice, but they don't know how to do it. So a teacher should be able to say, okay, you do stick control, you do syncopation, you work out of the Jim Chapin book, you work on grooves, you work on phrasing, you work on musicality, blah, blah, blah. There's a structured and organized process that you follow. As a result of that structured and organized process, you're going to have accelerated learning. You're not going to accelerate at the same rate by just relying on online resources. You will not accelerate at the same rate. If you're taking a weekly or bi-weekly lesson, your acceleration, because you've got someone constantly giving you feedback on what you're doing, on what you're playing, you're going to improve. There's no reason why you shouldn't. As long as you put that structured practice in, you're going to achieve accelerated learning. Number 3, motivation and accountability. This one is huge. My entire teaching is all about motivation and accountability. So what I like to do is I like to motivate my students by getting them excited about drums, getting them excited about practicing drums, getting them excited about music, getting them excited about listening to music and applying what they learn on the drum kit with music. So playing along with songs. So there's so many levels of motivation. I like to get them excited. I like to get my students to the point where they can't wait to get home and practice. That's the way I was. When I used to take lessons, continuous lessons, constant lessons, as soon as I would learn something new, I would be excited to get home and practice it. And I never wasted any time. I'd always go home. The first thing I would do, if I could, was to get on that pad or get on that drum kit and start practicing. So a good teacher should motivate you. The other thing is accountability. So accountability implies that there is some support for what you are actually doing. So when you come and you say, you're not sure exactly how to play this paradiddle with an accent on the downbeat, well, you have shown to me some accountability that you need to learn, that you need structure, and that you need help. And that's where I come in as the teacher. I will get you to understand that you need to practice your paradiddles to get better at them. I always have students, how do you do that? How do you play so fast? How do you play it so that it sounds so good? How do you do this? How do you do that? Well, it's because I spent a lot of time with accountability, meaning that I realized I needed to get better. I realized that, when you see legendary drummers, there's a reason why they're so good. There's no easy path to becoming a great drummer. I mean, you got your Buddy Riches of the world, you got your Gene Krupas, you got your Dennis Chambers, you got your Neil Pearts. They're born to play. I get it. But guess what? Most of them still turn to others for guidance. Not so much Buddy. I don't think Buddy took a lot of lessons, but I don't think he took any lessons, to be totally honest. He was an absolute and complete natural. But even the great Neil Peart had lessons. He had teachers, before he became famous. He had teachers when he was getting into fame. And then, of course, there's the Freddie Gruber, 2 years of lessons that he had with Freddie Gruber when he realized that, wow, Freddie, I can learn something from Freddie. I can improve my technique, which is going to make me a better player moving around the drum kit. And also, Neil was having a lot of problems with his arms and shoulders and whatnot, and Freddie was able to help all of that. Number 4. Personalized guidance and gear advice. So, personalized guidance. I have students that I'm constantly guiding, all my students, I'm constantly guiding them in terms of bass drum technique, snare drum technique, how to hit the drums to get a bounce. I'm teaching them the Moeller technique. I'm teaching them the Gladstone finger technique. I'm teaching them the rebound stroke. I'm teaching them how to get your fingers to move after you get that Moeller stroke in. There's so many elements. I'm teaching them new styles, different styles of drumming. So if you're a rock drummer and you want to learn how to play jazz, it's a totally different bag going from rock to jazz, and vice versa. You're a jazz drummer, you want to learn how to play rock, vice versa. So the personalized guidance, you're not going to get that unless you have that one-on-one lesson. Group lessons are okay too, master classes, but one-on-one is ideal. Gear advice, always, this is a huge one. Always get students and parents asking me about what cymbals should I buy, what hi-hats should I buy, what hardware should I buy, what drum kit should I buy them a pad, what kind of sticks do they need, blah, 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 blah. You're not going to get that anywhere except from a drum teacher that's skilled, knowledgeable, knows his gear, and can give that kind of advice. So I'm always giving students advice on what kind of equipment that they need. Now I remember, one student that I had, he went out and bought I remember telling him, he asked me what kind of drum kit he thinks, I think he should get. And I just said, Yamaha Stage Custom or something like that. And he went out and bought a 50th anniversary Yamaha drum kit that cost like about $15,000. So the guy's got a better drum kit than me, even though I have an amazing drum kit. My Yamaha recording custom kit's an incredible kit. Just because it's, the 50th anniversary is more expensive. They're both great drum kits, but he goes out and buys this 50th anniversary drum kit, and truly an amazing drum kit, but he didn't really need it, but he had the funds to do it. So, hey, why not buy yourself an amazing drum kit? Why not? If you have the money, no problem. I thought that was funny. That most times it's the opposite. Parents especially are looking for what's a drum kit I can get them on that's decent but not going to break the bank. That's usually the gear advice that I'm giving. So personalized guidance and gear advice, extremely important. Number 5, confidence and creative exploration. This is huge as well. It's kind of linked into motivation and accountability a little bit. Confidence is extremely important, and being able to encourage your students to confidently strike the drums, confidently play that groove, confidently express themselves musically. Usually what happens when I'm doing lessons at the music school that I teach at is the students do a recital every year. Well, 3 months leading up to that recital, every single lesson is confidence building. I got to build them up so that they have not only the playing confidence, but the mental confidence that they are not afraid to get on that stage and do their thing. And I always tell them, especially if it's their first time, how much fun it is to be on stage. Yes, you're going to be nervous. Yes, you're going to be shaking a little bit in your booties. That is perfectly and absolutely normal. But after it's done, that feeling of success, that you achieve something, is an unbelievable feeling. Plus, being on stage and you're playing and you're looking at the audience and the audience is cheering you on and big smiles on their face and mom and dad are so proud of you. There's nothing that tops that. That's the joy that musicians seek, is the relationship between the performer and the audience. And you will never understand that unless you get out there and do it. So I have to build up the confidence a lot of times. Now, I do have students that are seasoned players. I teach professional drummers as well. Those guys, when I'm trying to develop their confidence, it's on a different level. It's more of taking the new technique that I taught them, teach them the Moeller technique. Well, how do we apply that Moeller technique confidently in their playing? Obviously, it takes time to develop the technique, but once you develop it, we've got to develop the confidence to start to use it in the playing. That's the key with the more advanced and or professional students. Creative exploration. Always, always, always encourage my students to get out and express their own groove ideas, their own phrasing ideas, their own musicality, different ideas inside of songs. This is the way I do it, but you might do it a little bit differently. And that's okay. What I used to do is I would take a lesson. I can remember learning how to play Somewhere Down the Crazy River with Manu Katché on drums, a Robbie Robertson song. And I always loved that groove. If you're not familiar with that song, Robbie Robertson from the band, it was a solo song, Somewhere Down the Crazy River. Amazing, amazing drum groove. Now, I learned how to play that drum groove exactly the way it was played in the song. But then I altered it and threw in my own ideas, my own phrasing, my own musicality. And I used my ideas based off the original Manu groove in some songs when I was not only performing live, but actually in recordings as well. So you want to get your students to explore creativity. Creativity is the foundation of music. It's the absolute foundation on all levels. Now, I might add, if you're not a drummer, all these principles that I'm talking about today apply to all musicians, not just drummers. I'm just focusing on drummers because it's a drum channel, so it makes perfect sense. Now, the other thing as a side note, it's not number 6, but it's a side note, is you go to a drum teacher, you can learn new styles. You're exclusively a rock drummer, but you want to learn how to play jazz, you want to learn how to play Afro-Cuban, seek out a guy that can teach you how to play those styles because they're very unique and you absolutely have to have somebody that can teach you those styles. What I do is, most of my students, I start off in terms of beginners, I start them off with straight ahead rock beats. And then we advance through various rock beats. And then we go to learning a basic jazz feel, a basic shuffle feel, a basic Afro-Cuban feel, a basic brush feel. You know what I mean? So we advance from one thing to the next, but I give them a broad spectrum of things to learn. It's not just playing in a rock band, it's a broader spectrum. Now, sometimes I'll have guys that are exclusively rock drummers. They've been playing for a long, long time and they come to me, they want to improve their technique, they want to learn the Moeller technique, they want to learn the free stroke, and they want to learn how to play jazz. Okay, bang, that's what we focus on. I've also had guys come to me that are great rock drummers, great jazz players, but they're a little bit loose on their Afro-Cuban grooves. So I'll exclusively teach them how to play a mambo, how to play a cha-cha-cha, how to play a merengue, etc., all the different Afro-Cuban type grooves, and then get them listening to the music. That's the other thing. I can remember when I was learning how to play jazz music, getting to listen to it, understanding the vibe, feeling out the form of the songs, listening to what the sax player plays, what the keyboard player does, what the bass player does, and then being able to integrate your own ideas. That's where the creative exploration comes into it again. Again, once you learn one type of a feel, you learn how to play a mambo, throw your own ideas in there with that mambo. Sometimes it annoys me when you'll see drummers playing and other drummers criticize them. Yeah, that's not an authentic mambo. Who cares? Everybody has their own vibe. If you say in your video, this is how to play an authentic mambo, and you play it incorrectly, okay, those guys got an argument. But if the guy doesn't state that and he's playing a mambo, but it's not exactly the structured Afro-Cuban mambo out of the book, that's his own creativity. And there's nothing wrong with that. I strongly believe and encourage all my students to seek out their own creativity. So learning new styles is a really, really good way to add things to your rock beats. So you're used to playing doom, ga, doom, ga, doom, ga, you know? It would be cool if you played that, you know, boom, ga beat for a bar, and then the next beat, ding, ding, ga, ga, ding, ding, ga, ga, go, boom, ga, boom, ga, boom, ga, ding, ding, ga, ga, ding, ding, ga, ga, go, boom, ga, boom, ga. How cool is that to be able to add like a salsa cowbell pattern in there? In between, you know, you play 4 bars of a rock groove and then you throw in a bar or 2 of an Afro-Cuban feel. It spices things up and it makes it interesting. You will not be able to do that if you don't understand how to play an Afro-Cuban cowbell pattern. If you don't understand how to structure the really interesting tom fills in Afro-Cuban music. And a lot of drummers that understand Afro-Cuban, and then they take those Afro-Cuban type fills and they apply them in rock music. It's super cool to be able to do that. So I encourage you to learn new styles. Okay, guys, I hope that this maybe changed a few opinions out there. You guys out there that are all self-taught, maybe you'll think, hey, maybe he's got a point. Maybe these are good reasons to seek out a drum teacher. Now, if you're interested in lessons with me, I teach online through Zoom. You're going to need a Zoom account in music mode, and you're going to need a PayPal account. If you live in my area, where I live in Ontario, in Southern Ontario, you're more than welcome to come for in-person lessons, and I encourage the in-person lessons. Now, for me, it's closing in on the end of August. September is when it all beefs up for me. Throughout July and August, I've had some students, but not a lot. It tends to die down in the summer. But September elevates right back up, and I will be teaching probably 40 to 45 students a week. I'm a very busy teacher. So if you're interested in lessons, I'll always try and make time for you. So hit me up, and we will set up either an online or in-person lesson. Okay, guys, I hope that this helped. I hope that like I said, I changed the minds of some of you guys that are only exclusively self-taught. And of course, let me know how you guys feel about what I've had to say today in the comments. Thanks very much for watching, and as always, keep drumming. See ya.